Who's stage tag with Cloud9's man in the mid lane.
Thank you, guys. And yes, as you mentioned, I'm with Jensen. So, Jensen, 3-game series, maybe not what you expected somewhere during Game 2, but how do you feel overall about the victory over P1?
I feel pretty good. Game 2 was pretty sloppy, but I think overall we played pretty well.
And talk to me a little bit about Game 2, because you guys did jump out to that really early advantage, but then had the game fall away from you. A little bit of why you think that happened, and then how you recovered so mightily for the Game 3 matchup.
Well, I think Game 2, we weren't playing to our comp strength and to their weaknesses. So I think we messed up on that part a little bit, but I think moving forward in the series, like, we know what to do and how to win the game, so we just played to our game and won the series.
And another thing that changed between games 1, 2, and 3 was your support. You're still swapping Bunny Fufu in and out of the lineup. Can you talk to me about the different dynamics you have when Bunny is in the lineup versus when he is not in the lineup?
I'm not really sure. I can't really go into specifics, but I think they have like different strengths and different weaknesses. So we just swap around whenever we feel like one of the supports would do better if we need certain champions or something like that.
Okay, is there a shot calling element to it as well? Do they both serve kind of the same shot calling duties, or do maybe you take up more of a mantle when one of them's in the lineup or the other one?
I think shot calling is something we all do. We don't really have a specific shot caller, so I think Bunny talks a bit more, but we don't really have a specific shot caller. We all just talk and yeah.
That's really interesting, because we've obviously had this probably hit a little too hard storyline about High being the shot caller for Cloud9. Are you guys looking to dispel that a little bit, that kind of all of you can exist in a world without High this split?
Yeah, for sure. I think it works better as well if you don't have like one specific shot caller. So that's something Rebirth is helping us with, like just have us all communicate a bit more and just everyone have their own opinion and whatever we need to do in the game.
Awesome, that's really cool to hear. And I also remember a comment you made at the start of the season saying that this was the best Cloud9 roster you've played on. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on those comments?
Well, I think it was just mainly coming from the scrim results we had in Korea. I know scrims doesn't mean everything, but I could really see that we came together as a team and we all had like the same goal and ambitions. So we all really wanted to win. And I think we were just meshing really well as a team. And that's why I think this lineup has the most potential of the one I've played with.
Awesome answer. How do you guys think you're going to do against CLG tomorrow?
I think we're going to win. We're going to body those fools.
All right, good to hear. Embracing the meme. Let's send it over to the analyst desk to close out the day.
Thank you very much, Jensen, exuding some confidence there, even after having to go to 3 games against Phoenix1. But they do get the win in Game 3, again, in more dominating fashion here. Not without a few kind of extraneous chases around the map. It was probably a longer game than it even needed to be, given how well they started off.
A lot of Benny Hill-esque kind of moment.
They needed their exercise.
For the most part, you know, they understood the macro a lot better. They were going in the right places, making up the right plays, and it seemed like it was orchestrated all by Bunny.
Right.
So I'd give him a lot of credit. And, you know, they did struggle a little bit too much, but you saw just how fed they got by the end of the game. So maybe they wanted to have a little bit more fun, you know, and just let them relax it out, because that was a grueling game too.
Yeah, definitely seemed a lot more confident. I like that you brought up the fact that, you know, this was with Bunny returning to the lineup. I'm just going to jump right to our player of the game, because it is Bunny Fufu who's going to receive that honors. So let's talk about him a little bit more. What is our assessment? We heard from Jensen that between the two of them, maybe Bunny talks a little bit more, but they're still very willing to swap the 2 players in and out. What do we think about Cloud9 with Bunny, Cloud9 with Smoothie?
I think they're just a little bit maybe more decisive with it, and they don't always seem to go to the mid lane. A lot of these plays were happening in the side lane. We saw that in Game 1, Game 3, and in Game 2 we saw a lot of more mid focus. So I think you know, maybe it's just how Bunny is. He sees the plays in the side lanes better. A lot of it was enabled by the Sivir and the Bard being able to close distances extremely quickly, as well as CC people from long range. So I think it was a little bit of the comp and probably a little bit of the players.
I think it's too hard to judge what they're trying to do and what they bring to the team just from shot calling, because I can't really hear what they're doing. But you know, I'm not sure how decisive Smoothie can be, because he was put on the Karma as opposed to Bunny's 2 games on Bard, which is a much more decisive, engaged champion. Like a Bard-Sivir combination is a lot more aggressive than what a Caitlyn and Karma can offer to a team. So I would like to see what Smoothie can bring in a more engaged kind of champion. And after that point, we can really decide who's truly outshining who.
All right, let's flip the tables one more time, Phoenix1. We did talk earlier today about the fact that they are working with a makeshift roster here. They've got a mid laner playing ADC. Granted, he does have some experience having played ADC, but Yeah, just like Expeke. So we're mirroring the European LCS, but I do want to touch on this team because they did take a game, off of Cloud9, even with this makeshift roster. So we did see some fight in this roster, but there's clearly still plenty of breakdown when it comes to just the larger macro game of League of Legends.
Right now, it looks like if you put them in a 2v1, they're clueless, basically. Every single time, they're falling behind in some way, getting crushed in long lanes. This time, we saw that there was a big TP flank play by C9 that just pretty much blew the game wide open from there, as well as already having made a play on the top side. So it just seems like once you get the turrets down and the lanes are open, they get totally lost. And I think that's really where they need to look to shore up in the coming weeks.
And it's a key trait of most teams that just come up together that don't have a very strong competitive background.
Yeah, well, there you have it. The rookie team falling to the more veteran team of Cloud9. Time now, though, for us to have a look at the LCS big play of the day. Thanatos says, have you read Hans's survival guide? Bear Grylls couldn't do it better. Let's take a look.
Shrimp is going to get the chrono shift, but that means Keen is undefended. Apollo gets destroyed by Bjergsen while Svenskeren is in the back. Hanser is shielded on the front side, and TSM are cleaning it again through another auto attack.
Scary point for TSM was, oh, will Hanser die while we kill the rest of the team? He gets down to one more hit, able to Q to the other side, and Biofry shields him, so the answer is no.
I think not enough credit for Biofrost there. You got two huge shields.
Got two shields, yeah, exactly.
And then I think Doublelift popped a heal. I mean, that's a team survival effort, not just Hanser.
All right, well, all right. But it was an LCS big play nonetheless. Right? And, I mean, for TSM, though, the way that they're playing right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw many an LCS big play coming from them because they're styling on people as of right now.
Absolutely, and it's all coming from the team synergy that they're working on. It's not really one guy just really carrying the team in terms of the map movement and everything. They're all doing these things together. When they pressure, they're all pressuring at once. When they team fight, what Doublelift had said, they all commit to it, and it's a joy to watch.
It very much is. Be sure to send us on Twitter at LOL Esports. Tell us your favorite highlights on the day using that hashtag LCS Big Plays. That's going to do it there. Now, though, with Saturday's games in the bag, the standings have shaken up just a bit. Let's have a look at how the league is coming together. Locked in the three-way tie for first are TSM, Immortals, and Envy. Fourth place belongs solely to Cloud9. In fifth, we have Apex. Fox and CLG sit in a two-way tie for sixth, followed by eighth place Energy. Finally, down on the bottom of the table are still winless Liquid and Phoenix1. Moving to tomorrow's schedule, we've got more LCS games on tap that you won't want to miss. You can catch TSM face off against Immortals on NALCS 1, followed by Echo Fox versus Liquid in the Battle Arena. And over on NALCS 2, you can see Team Envy go head-to-head with Phoenix1 before CLG take on Cloud9. Our broadcast hits your browsers at 12 p.m. PST, so please set your alarms. Gentlemen, obviously, we've already spoken about the TSM Immortals matchup that's going to be taking place on our first game of the day tomorrow. Now, having seen TSM play once again today, how we feel about this matchup here. Can Immortals challenge them? Take them at least to a third game like no one else has?
Yeah, I think they can. They're mechanically proficient, and they do bring a lot of aggression to the table, which is what you should meet head-on against a team like TSM, who's really trying to be aggressive all the time. So it can certainly go three ways to 3 games just because of the nature of the champions and style of these players. But I kind of favor TSM a little bit more because they seem to have a lot more restraint when it comes to remembering what their plan is and making their opponents play reactively. We've seen the Immortals be really sloppy in their draft as well, not just in their play.
Yeah, I think it will probably be a 2-1, but I wouldn't be surprised to see 2-0 just because these are going to be such bloody games.
Right.
I don't think either of these teams are going to hold back and play scared. Every team has experience. They're not going to be scared of a best of 3 in the middle of the season. I think you'll see a total bloodbath.
Yeah, we know Immortals as a pretty bloody team, pretty aggressive team, and then Doublelift himself declared on the desk that this TSM roster not afraid to get in there and fight and be messy. One of the other series I do want to zero in on is that Cloud9 versus CLG game. Just given the fact that CLG still, we're waiting to see more from them. We're waiting for them to kind of return to that championship form. And for C9, given the fact that they're still subbing out their support player and they drop a game to the likes of Phoenix1, I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup where we're looking for both teams to prove something to us.
Well, the cool thing about that matchup is that CLG has shown glimmers of their former self, but a lot of times CLG just get ahead against weaker teams with a lane swap. So they're really proficient in making sure that their lane swap goes well, and often they'll get Darshan ahead that way. But Cloud9 has shown that their lane swap, it's pretty good too. They've been able to really shut down P1 and a couple other games, even though they had a little bit of blunders, and they put Meteos in the champion that's a little bit better for that. So I think that it'll come down to the mid-game macro, not so much in the early game where you just take 2 turrets and try to trade a Dragon or a Herald.
Right, and I think that's exactly going to be the point to watch, because we've seen C9 kind of stall out in these mid-games where they don't seem to know exactly what to do. And I think C9 or CLG is the type of team that will punish that. They'll get, you know, Darshan ahead on some split push. They'll get some picks off, and you know, CLG hasn't looked 100% up to form, but that was always one of their strengths, was this kind of mid-game playmaking and moving around the map.
All right, well, 2 of the 4 big matches that we're looking at tomorrow. That, though, is going to do it for us here in the studio today. For myself, our guest analysts, the casters, and crew, thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to see you back here tomorrow.